going on, everybody? And yes, Frank, I am late, brother. Man, I've had pretty advantageous last 2 hours. Man, we had a huge storm blow through and blew all my tomato plants over, and some of them landed my pepper plants, knocking them down, breaking some of those. So I've lost the only green bell pepper plant that I had this year. The rest are all lunchbox peppers, which I think they're going to survive, but I was just going to leave the tomatoes laying down until the storm blew and it quit. But we do have another storm expected to hit about between 8 and 10. So I'm going to have to keep my eye open for that and watch the weather. And I might have to leave for a minute and go check on my plants again. I think I've got some metal fence posts that I may have to drive into the ground. I got them on my patio, lining the edge of the patio, and I may have to just drive those metal stakes in the ground on the edge. We were going to work on today and got a little bit of outside work done, got the backyard mowed and got a little clearing up work done. I got more to do. Got some poke plants that grew up quick. But yeah, I got another line of storms coming through, and our power went down for a little while. Thought Ann's computer was fried for a minute. We unplugged it and reset it, and that seemed to work, but we thought we'd lost it. She left it on during the power outage, and I thought sure we'd lost it, but we managed to get that. Now she's having trouble getting into it, bless her heart. Google's giving her hell, trying to log back on and resetting passwords and shit. I don't know what all happened. But yeah, I guess this is we got another line of storms coming in. Going to hit at about 8:30, 9 o'clock. The band I'll show y'all here. Here's what I'm looking at. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, here we go. Let me put that in motion. So this is how it started, and I'm the dot right there. You can see, I guess this is reverse kind of. You see that red coming through. That's what's getting ready to come through. Now look at this line. That's what's headed straight for us, and it's a big, long line. It's just going to hammer us. So if it gets real bad, I may have to why is it reversed on here? Let me see. Let me see something. Put something up here. It's reversed, isn't it? Oh, damn, I thought I had my camera set right. I'm not going to fool with it right now. I'm afraid I'll fuck it up and we won't be able to do the podcast at all. But yeah, this is headed to Tennessee, so heads up down there. The first band went through, man, I mean, we had horizontal rain. It was just coming down torrential sheets. That squall line came through, man, them tomato plants just and they're in big pots, some of them big around as, huge pots, right? Some of them got probably 10-gallon pots big. And it just blew those over like it's nothing. So hopefully, that line of storm coming in worried me. Right now we're in a lull, but in about an hour, about 9 o'clock, it's going to get nasty again. So hopefully we'll be able to get through this and not have any events, but we'll just have to play it by ear. In the meantime, gotta share some links. So bear with me. And after I get these links shared, got something else to talk about. Let's see how far we can get. Oh, hell. I just shared her. Man, bad day. I just shared last week's link to the militia page. So that blew a share. Hate it when I do stupid shit. Just now. Okay, let's delete that. That's going to take up one of my shares. I hate it when I do stupid shit. Let's try that again. I got too many things on my mind right now. That's the problem. But we'll get her shared. Militia page, that's the most important one. So hopefully everybody's having a better week than me. I did see some people posting some video of some people flooding down in Tennessee, and I pray to God that these storms don't blow over them, because there's a lot of rain with these storms. A lot of wind and a lot of rain. So hopefully it makes their way around them. I noticed some posts online. I can't remember. I'm so busy in the last 2 hours trying to. And it did blow all the debris on the top of my pool to one side, so I took advantage of that to go over and scoop it while I was out in the rain. So I'm a little bit wet. I'm a little bit wet right now. In fact, my shirt's soaked. But it feels good. It's cool. But let me get these links shared. Probably won't get a whole lot because I already blew 2 on the militia. Can't believe I did that, but life goes on. But I got a good variety of groups I like to share too. There's some new groups that aren't as common to us. I think there's, of course, always going to be militia people in probably every group out there. We've got a pretty good representation and a lot of admins in a lot of these groups. And if you're not, and you're an admin, you should probably join the militia so you can kind of keep in touch. And if you got issues with people in your group or certain things happening, you can let us know and we can all kind of work together. That's what it's all about. So let me get these out there. And then we'll chat. A lot of good groups out there, though. I wish I could share to more. So if you have a group and you'd like for me to share to them, talk to the admins and have them get up with me, and I'll be happy to add them to the list. And if you're in a group that you like and you think would benefit from it, yeah, get with your admins and in those groups and tell them to get up with me. We'd be happy to add them. Let's see how many more we can do. I might have screwed it up at the beginning. So I got a few more. I hate this dead air. Okay, that's where I had to stop. Damn it. Let me date that. 11. Okay, so we'll start there. So at 9 o'clock, remind me, I can go out and look at check the weather and take care of that. And I just about clicked out of the damn group, man. Wow. Okay. Okay, good deal. All right, let's get up with everybody. What's going on, Frank? First one was here. Patty wasn't tardy. Good to see you, brother. Howdy, howdy. Is it trying to storm there as well? Yeah, it's headed that way, man. Let me see. Yeah, let's see here. I'm going to have to reverse my camera. I can't believe it's that way. I hate it when it's like that. So I'm going to have to set it and reverse it. But I'm not going to do that during the podcast because I know sure as hell I'll mess it up if I do. So hopefully people in the Carolinas, there's some areas that were getting droughts, I was told earlier. So hopefully, yeah, a lot of this looks like it's going west of us. Yeah, that right there is going, most of that's going west of us, thank goodness. And that, oh man, that looks so mean. Coming out of, what is that, Illinois or Indiana? Man, Indiana's getting hammered. Prayers for theirs. I mean, we got hail, so there's definitely probably some tornadic activity in some of all this for sure. Huge winds here and hail, so and bows hitting us, those curved bows hitting us. But yeah, we got a big line that's going to hit us at about maybe after. I think I might be able to get through the podcast before the major hits, but yeah, prayers for everybody in the line of these storms, man, because they ain't nothing to fool with. That's about the hardest I've seen it rain here in a long time. What's going on, Mr. Cridlin? Good to see you, brother. No problem, bro. I hope you brought us some questions. Yeah, that's right. I did. I was telling Ann we need to go out and wash the cars and let the rain wash them off. What's going on, John? Good to see you, bro. My car's filthy. I need to wash it. But I hate the pressureless washes. They just don't get that. So we get a lot of carbon because we have coal burning plants here. So we get a lot of carbon in the air, which I'm all about coal burning plants. I love those. And I know a lot of people talk about the air pollution and stuff. They've really cleaned those things up majorly since the 70s and 80s when they were, in high use and very dirty and creating a lot of acid rain. Man, they put so many scrubbers in those things now. And people drive by and, oh, look at all that pollution. That's steam. I mean, what you see, all the white stuff coming out of those coal burners, that's steam. That's a coolant. That's water coolant. That's the steam coming up. So the smoke, it does have the sulfur though, because that's the one worst byproduct of a lot of coal, and kind of determines the quality of coal is the sulfur content, and of course the BTUs that it burns at, and determine whether it's metallurgical grade or just Stoker grade. But yeah, this a lot of times they'll mix it to get it to where it needs to be to work in these plants. But yeah, it builds up a lot of carbon on stuff, and a lot of patios get kind of black, and you have to pressure wash them, and cars, of course, get it. Yeah, a little carbon to filter the runs. That works good too. Yeah, that helps take some of those fusel oils out. Especially good when you're running tails. And when you run tails and you're planning on rerunning them, of course, it's great to run it when you start hitting those tails. It's doubly important and good to use those carbon filters in, because it'll help remove a lot of those oils out of the tails, and it'll give it a little better flavor when you run it that second time or run it in your thumper or whatever. So yeah, it helps a lot. A lot of people don't like doing it during the hearts. I mean, I guess you don't want to use it at all during the fours because you don't want it to hold any of that acetone, right? And by the time you get to hearts, you don't want it filtering through something that's, holding maybe some acetone. But some people don't like it. It's mixed. A lot of people don't like filtered whiskey. They do cold filtering as well. So they'll put it in real low temperatures, and, they'll coagulate any kind of fats in it and skim those off, and call it cold filtering. So they'll do that as well. And a lot of people feel, and I'm one of them, that removes a lot of flavor when you take some of those oils out. And, maybe if it's a Bloody Butcher, heavy, oily and and really, earthy, might be okay to maybe run some then to kind of remove some of those so it doesn't overwhelm. Because a lot of people don't like the Bloody Butcher because of that. Some people love it because of it. It's kind of a hit or miss thing, opinion. There's no fact to that, but um, definitely helps on a real heavy oily corn like that. Definitely, and especially in the tails. So anytime you get in the tails, if you got a carbon filter, definitely helps. A lot of people. Most of the carbon filters are from coconut husks, which are fine. They're fine. That's fine filter media and material. Uh, Others, some people, I don't know. I hate to have to say this, but don't use charcoal briquettes that you use in your grill. Okay. So, there's always that one out there that doesn't know. Nobody told me that I couldn't use Kingsford, So just don't. But you can get it at the pet store and a lot of other places. Most of your charcoal these days are sourced from coconut husks, and those are fine. If you got some oak and you want, if you have your little campfire out back, just make sure that you don't have any, pine or cedar or anything like that you're going to get a lot of saps and bad flavors from. But if you have like a little fire pit and you want to burn some oak, or if after you use staves and you've used them up as many times as you can and you just want to, char them on out and, hammer them out and char them out real good. And yeah, you can use those. Those work real well and probably add a little bit of flavor too. Got us a question. All right, good deal. I'm going to barrel 5 or 6 gallons of Bloody Butcher. How far into tails would you go on high dollar mash? I wouldn't go far at all. I would stop on, I would start my cuts right at the verge of the heads and the hearts. Just a touch of the esters from the heads in there to esterify. And then right when I started getting into the tails, I wouldn't go far at all. I like to use this chart. It's a pretty good little chart. And it's kind of a pretty good, don't pay attention to the temperatures. I hate that. But I would start it at jar 7, right? And probably end at jar 15, 16, somewhere in there. Get you a little bit of esters from there, maybe in between 6 and 7. If you're going to barrel age it for 4 years or more, yeah, you could probably sneak in between 6 and 7 there and go into 15, 16. Just don't want to get too far, into, you definitely don't want to do 1 through 4, and 5. It's just too much. But 6, 7, getting a little bit of esters in there. I don't know if I'd go as far as 6, but 7, right at the verge of the heads to hearts. You can keep that. And then, all the way into 15, maybe 16-ish. But everything after that, save it. Don't age it, right? Save it. Run your charcoal through and take all the oils out that you can and just rerun it. The next time you have a run, your mash is ready, you dump all your clears into your pot and ready to run it, add those tails. Or put it in your thumper and it'll work through, and it'll add a lot of volume. You'll get a lot of volume, and it's good ethanol. It's easy. It's real easy to separate from those oils in your tails, and it doesn't leave a lot of those bad, odors that you smell, the wet dog, the wet cardboard, all that musty. It doesn't leave those behind. What's going on, Chris Pollen? Good to see you, brother. So it doesn't leave all that behind, or it leaves all that behind. It's not going to carry those over at all. But yeah, the heads I don't save, and some people try to do the heads and the tails and do what's called an all faints run. I don't fool with it. As far as proof wise, it really depends on the setup and what you're running. If you're running to the phlegmator, 100 may be too low, because if you're compressing a lot, 100 may be too far, right? You may need to do it at 110. If you got a lot of reflux going and you're compressing tails back into the distillate, you may be getting a lot of tails at 100, 110. Whereas if you're running in pot still mode, 80, 90 might be a better number, right? So it will depend on your setup, and that's why you really have to depend on the smell and the feel. You'll definitely feel the oils. When you feel something clean, you know how your fingers get squeaky clean and they rub, they don't slide together. They kind of catch. It's kind of like a squeaky clean. You'll get the same thing when you're feeling the hearts. It'll be squeaky clean. And then when you start hitting those oils, you'll feel it a little bit slicker in your fingers. You'll see it bead up on the surface of the jar that you're stripping into, and you'll smell it. You just use your sniffer. So try not to, taint your hands with all the heads and all that. You'll know when you're out of the heads. But when you get to the tails, get it in your hands and wash your hands together and smell it. And you'll smell, the musty, the oily, and you can feel it. And you can also see it kind of bubble up and bead on top of the jar. So I wish there was a proof. In certain steel setups, you could probably go by proof, fractional columns, of course, it just separates it all for you. That'd be nice if we could afford those, right? But on a pot steel, it's going to be probably 80, 90, proof. On, a column, if you're running a deflag, it could be 100, 110. You just, because what happens when you run a deflag, maybe you compress those tails back in, and I mean, it'll go, 140, 130, 130. It'll hold for a long time, and then it'll just drop off. I mean, it'll drop off from 130 to 80 in one jar, and you've compressed a lot of tails, which isn't a bad thing, but when it makes that drop, you need to be ready to pull, because that's not no bueno at all. When it gets to that's stuff you definitely don't want in. But run it on out, collect, but don't include those in the cuts that you keep, right? Brita filters are fine. It will remove some flavor. So it depends on what you got. If you're running a vodka that doesn't have a lot of flavor, absolutely, it's perfectly fine. If you're running a brandy and you want every bit of filter, or every bit of flavor that you can get, you really don't want to use something as heavy as that. A lot of times, if you get particulates, right? If you get a lot of cloudy, sometimes you get saponification. So sometimes if you use high pH water to proof with, that and the acids, that high alkaline and the acids in there and the oils will saponify and create little floaties. And it's good to, and it's just fats, lipids. But sometimes it's good to have some sort of mechanical filtration. Coffee filters are great to use because they're primarily a mechanical filter. They're not a chemical filter like a Brita would be, or charcoal. That's more of a chemical filter, and it will remove flavors. Whereas just a coffee filter, or even a paper towel, a couple layers of paper towels that just soaks through and drips, more of a mechanical filter to remove stuff. So like when you age and you got a lot of wood, maybe some sawdust, and you got a lot of charcoal, from aging on some wood or some staves, because it does come off. Pour it through an old coffee filter. If you can find some on sale, it's good. I know they're expensive, so sometimes I'll just use a napkin or a paper towel or something like that. Works fine. So use more of a mechanical filter when you're trying to remove, just floaties and stuff like that. But Brita, if first you have to, what are you trying to filter off, right? When you run it through a Brita, what are you trying to remove? And that's what you got to think of. So if it's bad off flavors, then just run it again. Just do a strip and run. And if you got some off flavors, it just doesn't taste good or right, proof it down to about 60, 70 proof and run her again and clean it up. And that'll definitely help, unless you scorch. If you get a scorch on your grains or something like that, there's not going to be a lot you can do to help it. If you get some kind of odor from organic acids, like a butyric, if it's still smelling like vomit, don't run it till it runs its course. If you run it while it smells like vomit, that's a butyric acid. Generally from a stressed yeast will cause that. Let it run its course. Sometimes it'll clear up, sometimes it won't. And if it doesn't, you can put it on a column and try to strip all that off you can. And then sometimes you just, it's just a lost cause, but you got to try, right? But running it over and over might work. But if you're on propane, you're probably not going to want to waste a lot of propane. That's one of the benefits of being on electric. you can run it 5 or 6 times. It's no big deal, right? Just a time thing. But because it doesn't cost that much. But if you're using propane, you got an expense, a pretty big overhead there. So that's right. It's a bunch of hillbillies and rednecks, baby. Welcome to Hillbilly Hell. What's going on, Andy? Asked a couple of weeks ago about doing stripping runs, and I got a question about that. Sure. Does it matter a whole lot with the temperature of the water in your condenser in as much on a stripping run? No, it's not as critical. You don't have to be perfectly in between that 60 and 75 range where we like to keep it. Would be great if you could. Less critical if it's a stripping run for sure. But we don't want it to get hot to where it's inefficient and you got steam coming out because you're losing alcohol. So you definitely want to make it cool enough to where you don't have any steam coming out, and you can hold. You want to make it cool enough to where that doesn't happen. So you can hold a little piece of a mirror above your spout where it's coming out and see if you got a lot of vapor coming out there that you can't see because it is invisible, and you don't want to put your fingers down there and feel it because if it's coming out, it'll burn the shit out of you. Learn that hard way. But yeah, put your little mirror or something, cosmetic mirror over there, and if it fogs up, then you might want to lower your temperature some more because you've got some. Yeah, some of my buddies messaging me. But yeah, it's fine, and it's not something that's critical as long as you're not getting vapor coming out. Hell yeah, that's good. Just don't restrict the flow, and don't put it in that small diameter pipe. I have to say it every time I talk about putting copper in there because I know just as sure as I'm sitting here, there's going to be somebody stuffing their Vever, 3/8-inch lines with that copper. Please, in God's name, please do not do that, or you're going to create a bomb. And I'm telling you, please don't. Do not do that. It's got that little slobber box. You can pack copper in there if you want to. That's perfectly fine. But please do not try to stuff copper in those small diameter 1/2 inch, 3/8 inch lines, even inch lines, 5/8. Too small. If you got, when we get to the tri clamps where it's 1.5 inch, 2 inch lines, they're that big. So, and you roll that copper loosely and the vapor can flow freely through it. That's fine. Just and don't put it down there right at the bottom where the vapors come right off the pot where you might get some puking. You don't want to puke, particles if you didn't get it thinned out or cleaned out real good and you're distilling on the grain even. Make sure that your mesh is up the column a little bit. So you don't want to puke into that and kind of clog things up and have vapors forcing, matter up in there and it just getting worse and worse as it forces it in and, get a little concretion of flour, basically, and cornmeal built up in there and it just keeps building up and forcing it in and eventually it'll clog it, and it can be very dangerous. So got to be careful and always keep your eye out. It's something that's, every time you fire up, once you start dripping, use that cosmetic mirror all the way around your steel. Make sure all your joints are good. If not, used to, we'd had to paste them with biscuit dough. Even with tri clamps, those can still leak. So check them. Sometimes that little gasket doesn't get in there. It's got a little ridge on it, right? That fits in there. Sometimes they don't get lined up just right. And the clamp goes on, it'll clamp down, but you could be leaking like hell from those. So check everything out. It's like driving an 18-wheeler, kicking your tires all the time, going all the way around, doing an all points check. Same thing with the plane. Do the same with your steel. When it's just running, stay alert. Don't get the time to get drunk is after the run. Is after when you turn the fire off, you turn the electric off, and you start making cuts. Then you can start doing a little drinking and making cuts and having a good time. But while you're running, try to stay alert. What's going on, Francisco? Good to see you, brother. No problem, brother. There is a blue yeast that you want to use. Yeast that most everybody uses is called blue yeast. And we may have to Uh, all right. You can get what's called a Saftec Blue. Trying to find that's not the one I was thinking of though. Maybe it is. So you may have to do the Google search for it. But it's a blue yeast. Let me see here. I wish Jeff was on here. I could ask him what he uses because he makes some of the best stuff there is. All right. So yeah, the blue yeast is the Saftec Blue. So that's the blue. There are some others out there. Yeah, it's the Saftec. SAF, capital TEQ Blue. And that's the blue yeast that that most everybody's going to use. I thought there was more varieties of that though. Here we go. Let me see what this. I thought there was more. Okay, now for a cheap option, EC 1118. Yeah. But there's also one I saw, another Lalvin, and it's a K1V111. That's also fairly commonly used. I can't remember. I think it's K1V111. Let me see if it's on here. Let's see. And I'm going to see if they carry those others on Amazon. I'm pretty sure. So you're going to have to get that. Now, you've heard of SAF. So the SAF instant, the red stuff, I mean, it's cheap. Then there's the gold. So this is the same company, right? This SAF, but this is SAF TEQ for tequila, and it's blue yeast. So it's the same SAF instant, the same, company that does the SAF instant that's got the chef on the cover. May have to go through a distiller, but I want to do this other one because I haven't heard of this other one. There's SAF cider AB1. SAF ale for English ale. So SAF makes a lot, but I'm not seeing their Tech Blue. So let me go to just the SAF. SAF, and then search from within them. No, I don't think you're going to get the Tech Blue off of. You may have to go through a brewer. Now, because of its costs, it's not going to be real expensive. SAF is generally cheap stuff. It's not expensive at all. but it's probably something that you're going to want to propagate, and we can talk about propagation and keeping it alive and reusing it and keeping that strain going. Um, there's a lot of Southern alternative beverage, moonshine distiller, uh, the Saf Tech. I'll take that back. It ain't cheap. Oh, here we go. So gonna have to search. I do want to see this other one though that I've not heard of. This Distilla Max TQ. Let's see if they got that on the Amazon. I like shopping on Amazon, man. You get shit in 2 days. And no, of course they don't have it either. But there's a nice tactical holster. Safari. Okay, that's nice. All right, let me Google for that and see who carries that. So probably one of those two is going to definitely be the best. Most seeing Lollymon. So that's a pretty large. That the Distilla Max comes from Lollymon, so you're definitely going to be able to get that fairly readily. I'm surprised that that's not on Amazon since it's a Lollymon. But that and the let's see, eShop. Let me see how much that is for a 500 gram brick. I know the other one is pretty expensive. Let's see. Let's see. This is 500 gram for $35. There's where you want to go. Distiller Max TQ. Yeah, the blue, the Safe Tech blue was considerably more. So just go straight to Lollymon Distilling, and you're gonna have to pay shipping and tax on it. It's not going to be much. It's 500 gram brick, but it's $35. That's cheap. pH range got a good 3.5 to 5.2. Temperature range 20 to 33 centigrade. So it's Celsius. So it's got a centigrade same. Got a good range. And fruitophilic, which means it's going to give you a lot of fruity esters. So it's that's what I'd recommend. Distilla Max TQ. I'm glad we did this. So I'll definitely, and that was their number one recommendation from pretty prestigious group that recommended that. So we're definitely can make note of that. I'm gonna leave that page open. I might have to order some of that shit. I'm glad we had the discussion because the blue is expensive. And if you buy it, you're going to have to propagate it. Let me see what this Safe Tech blue is. Oh, okay. It's not too bad. That's Safe Tech silver, though, not the blue. But it's for tequila. It's 500 grams, and it's $44 at Southern Homebrew. So, yeah, it's a little bit more, but not too bad. I'm pretty sure I saw one that says like $149 or some shit. Here, 500 grams, 92. That's Ontario. Never mind. Yeah, there's going to be somebody that's going to have that blue, hopefully for a little less than that. But the Safe Tech silver, $44 may not be as good because the blue is what I've always heard. And at Moonshine Distiller, it's $9.49 for 25 grams, so it's not going to be too crazy. But for here, it's Southern Homebrew, Safe Tech Blue, 500 grams, $97. So I think Distilla Max is going to be the next go-to for sure. But good question. I'm glad we went through that. What's going on, Brian? How's it going, brother? What's up, Spencer? Good to see you, bro. What's going on, Rodney? Good to see you, brother. And there's Scott. Looks like the usual suspects. Good to see you, man. On a beer keg, you need the one-sided silicone gasket. Absolutely, yeah. So on a beer keg, on most of your gaskets, you'll have a little ridge, right in the middle, all the way around it. So when you're going, spool to spool or spool to elbow or T or whatever you're running, there's a little ridge, right? If you're using a keg, do not try to use a regular tri clamp gasket, or else it's going to go. It's going to be hard to get on there first place. And if you get a silicone one and you do manage to get it on there, it's going to leak like crazy. It's going to be dangerous. Fieldbilly sells the flat ones. It's got a ridge on one side and it's flat on the other. So the flat side sits against the keg. The ridged goes against your column coming up. Let me show you a little picture of it so you know what I'm talking about. Abs, I'm glad you mentioned that. So yeah. So let me show you here. So yeah. So when you got a keg, right there where that sight glass is, the spool on that is going to have a ridge in it. But on the keg, it's smooth, right? It's perfectly flat and smooth. Always put that flat side against the keg. Now, if you've got a silicone one, you could probably take, if you want to take the time, you could probably take a razor and shave that little ridge off, but do it very carefully. Probably best just to buy one because you're probably going to screw 2 or 3 up, but before you get one that's just right. But yeah, you don't want it to leak. So always, that's the first place you're going to want to check for leaks when you're in the keg still too, because that's the first place that'll fail because it doesn't have that ridge. But if you get it on there just right, it should be, should be good to go. Sometimes you might have to take a little screwdriver and help tighten up that tri-clamp a little extra tighter than most of the others that are hand tightened, just to make sure that you get her good and solid. But again, take that little cosmetic mirror, go around it, make sure that you don't get any fogging up. If you do, you've got a little bit of a leak there that you need to tend to before you continue, because you're not only going to run the risk of explosion if you're in an enclosed area, or flame outs if some of the fires or something get up to it if you're running open flame, but or you're losing alcohol. That's probably that should be the least of your worries. I know some of you might be the most important thing, but yeah, you're going to lose alcohol and it's going to be dangerous. So be careful. And that's the main thing. Always try to stay sober and be as careful as you can. Because it's no joke. You're dealing with it's not like gasoline, but when it gets hot, it's pretty volatile. It can explode like gas. It can literally blow. As some of the people on here that's had fires and flame outs and steels that weren't sealed right, and had some fires to put out. So, and always keep a fire extinguisher. If you're inside your garage, or you got a nice shed, a nice steel house or steel shed that you use, keep you a good extinguisher in there, and make sure it's rated for alcohol and gas type fires. Definitely. Going on, Cecil, have an all grain with lacto. Going to run it. My question is, on my grain bed in mash barrel, can I use the back set, add sugar, and ferment again, or will the lacto cause issues with the fermentation thing? Absolutely, you can. But if you want to, you could get a pot of boiling water and just pour that back set in there, if it's just back set from your still, right? No, we're not talking about yeast bed or anything. Just the back set from your still, it's going to be fine. You can use that back set fine. But the yeast bed that you got in there, heat that back set up to boiling hot and pour it into that yeast bed and stir it up real good, and it'll kill all that lacto off. And that you don't want that lacto from the very beginning. If it picks up at the end, it's good. It's fine. It'll give you those good creamy notes, but you don't want it from the very get-go, because it not only eats your sugar, it'll eat your alcohol up, and it'll ruin production. It'll eat all your sugars. It'll compete with the yeast. And if it starts out at the beginning, it can outdo the yeast, and it just won't be good, especially in your, anytime you get it in there. Yeah. Put that hot set back in there real hot. Go ahead and dissolve your sugar. If you know how much sugar you're going to need, just go ahead and dissolve it on that hot back set, when it's, 180, 190 degrees, just under boiling. Get it boiling. Just don't, squirt your sugar, and just pour it in there and stir it up good and hot. And now you're going to have to use yeast again. You're not going to have any surviving yeast to depend on. So you'll you're going to add some fresh yeast to it. But you'll not have to worry about that lacto, because about 160 plus will kill it. But if you go in there good hot like that, it'll kill most everything off, and you can start fresh. Make sure you clean all your stuff up after you use it though, and use that Star Sand and disinfect everything. Yes, sir. Always safety first, man. Awesome. That's good stuff. Where did you get yours from? I thought I could have sworn that was on Amazon. I guess you get it from a distiller, or from, the little brew store. I could have sworn that was on Amazon though. But that's that and the Distillamax. I'm definitely going to try the Distillamax though. It seems to be a little bit cheaper. I remember the blue being expensive. I don't remember where I got it though. I could have sworn I got it off of Amazon. Right. I could have sworn it may be they may have taken it off there. It may be the same Saftec blue, because I could have sworn I got mine off of Amazon. I could have sworn I did. It's been a couple of years, but I could have sworn, because I don't do a lot of tequila, because it's just buying the blue agave is just too expensive for me. I'm too cheap for that shit. But yeah, it's I could have sworn I got it off there, but I didn't get no 500 gram brick. I just got the little packs, But I could have sworn I got it off there. No, it ain't. It ain't cheap. But most of that SAF is that SAF yeast, and that's good yeast too. That regular red stuff. Let me see here. That's good yeast too. That regular SAF instant. I know Tom likes it too. I like it. It's good. It's good yeast. For grains, if you want something cheap, I know you can get it at Tractor Supply pretty damn cheap. I don't know if they still carry it or not. When I was getting some corn, some cracked corn, and some corn, I seen it. They had it there, but I don't know if that's something they normally carry all the time, but that's SAF instant. If you see the package, you'll know what I'm talking about. Here, maybe I can screenshot that. Yeah. This stuff right here is what I'm talking about. When you see this, you'll know it in a heartbeat. Yep, that's it. Got the little baker on there. That's a bread yeast, but it's good. Cucumber mint infused corn whiskey. That sounds interesting. I about turned against cucumbers. We got some 2 different times. Ann likes putting it in there. We make a little macaroni salad and pasta salad with the Italian dressing on. She likes putting the cucumbers in it. The last cucumber we got, man, I swear it tasted like pure chemicals. It tasted like it was soaked in bug chemicals. You're right. The stuff you spray on your plants. It was. We washed it, and they say cut the ends off. Irish. We use StreamYard, but that cucumber tasted very chemically, man. It was like I spit it out. I was like, holy no. It was bad. And then she got another one about a month later, and it didn't taste right either. So I ain't eating no more cucumbers. I might eat a pickle in a jar, but as far as just buying a cucumber from the store, them days are done. She made some more salad tonight. So, this one's good. This cucumber's fine. I'm like, nope, get it out of there. I ain't never eating another. I mean, they don't add no flavor anyway, just a texture. I don't get much flavor from them. I like pickles. I'll eat a pickle, but nope. That doesn't. I mean, if you'd have tasted that, I mean, I've done gardening, and I know what the garden bug spray and the the weed sprays and all that. It's like, man, I don't know. It's like they soaked that cucumber in that shit, man. It was horrible. It was chemical. You knew you was tasting chemicals, man. And we washed it good, and it was peeled, so it wasn't like in the peel. She done peeled it and everything. She done scraped the peel off and everything, so it didn't even have the skin on it. So yeah, it was bad. Yeah, I mean, if you want to save some of that lacto, you can skim it, right? You can skim that and put it in a jar and put it in the fridge and save it. And when you're towards the end of a next fermentation, you can add it. If you want to start fresh, you can get some really good quality Greek yogurt and look inside, make sure it's got the lactobacillus, in there. You can just introduce that into it, stir it in good, and it'll give you a lacto. But yeah, you can skim that, save it, and reintroduce that. It's just a bacteria, lactobacillus. If you save it in a jar and reintroduce it, just skim it off the top. You want to skim it anyway before you start siphoning to run. So just skim that, whatever's floating on the top, that white, skim that and save it and put it in a jar and give it some of your, mash to eat on, right? So it needs that kind of survive. Yeah, Yeah, that's what I was seeing from those 80-90 bucks for a 500 gram brick. But I was just getting the little small ones. Yeah, yeah. Have you tried the silver? I tell you what, I'm gonna try the Distillamax for the price. I mean, that's a pretty good price. Been selectively selected especially for its ability to ferment glucose and fructose. So it's good for brandies in high stress conditions. So it might be good. And I mentioned the temperature range was pretty good, up to 33. Let me see what 33 centigrade is. That's 91.4. So it's got a pretty decent range. I do know that the tequila yeast, the Saf Blue, probably can go even higher than that because I know that it likes warmer. It prefers actually warmer because that's when a lot of people say it's best time. Summertime is a good time to do your tequila distillates because it can that yeast can take a lot higher heat and it actually prefers it. I'll have to remember that. 21 missions. I have to write that down because that stuff ain't cheap. But I got my buddy Jeff, and he probably makes the best tequila I've ever drank. I've mentioned it before, and he's supposed to be sending me some as of several months ago. Jeff, if you're listening, I've still yet to get it, but he's got some silver, and then he got some that he barrel ages, and man, that barrel age just one of Santa's favorite tequilas. I brag on it all the time. He's probably working at a commercial, this commercial distillery, trying to get him to come work for him, and I can see why. Because if he can do that for them, man, they'll have one of the nicest bottles of tequila on the shelf. I've tried a lot of top shelf tequilas, and it's up there with them or better than any I've had for sure. What's going on, Gene? Good to see. Right. Yeah, I was looking at them. That's one of the ones I was looking at. That and Moonshine Distiller. But yeah, that's some pricey stuff. You definitely want to learn to propagate your yeast when you're paying that high price. So learn to keep it alive, learn to jar it up, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I do talk about that every once in a while, and that's we'll talk about that again here in just a second. And it's a good point when we were talking about the yeast in that bed. Um, you're definitely not going to be able to save any of that if it's got the lacto in your yeast bed. There's just no way to save it. Um, Not saying that you can't use the dead yeast as a nutrient. That's perfectly fine. Just pour that hot back set with the sugar, like I said, in there and just dump it on it, stir it up. Make sure it's good and hot, 190, 200 degrees. Pour it in there hot as hell, and it'll kill all the yeast that's live. It'll kill pretty much everything in there off, which is a good thing. And then you're going to have to repitch yeast once the temperature comes down. But you can go ahead and dissolve your sugar into that and then add some water to help cool it off after you stir it up and let it sit for a while hot. You want to give it some time to kill everything off. And then you can add the water that you'd normally add and then get the temperature down, and then you can pitch your yeast and any nutrient. Well, you got all that dead yeast in there. You're not going to need a nutrient for sure. But yeah, that'll definitely work. All right, we got to read the joke of the day. Think my wife is trying to murder me. She got invited to a kid's birthday party. Asked, is it going to have alcohol there for the adults? She said no. She's trying to. No alcohol. No. When do you add it? Okay, so if you got your hydrometer, you start at a 1070, 1080 range, right? Um, Always keep an eye on that. And when it starts getting down to 1.010, then you can add it, right? And that'll be just enough sugars in there to get it going good. And don't let it go too long because it'll start consuming alcohol, right? It'll consume alcohol. So you don't want to lose too much of that, but you can let it cheese up a little bit, and then of course, it'll dry it on out. It'll consume the rest of the sugars, but it'll also consume alcohol. So don't let it sit too long. Yeah, we use StreamYard, and I think Damon uses EV Mux or something like that. So that may be good to look into as well. I know StreamYard is pretty easy to use. I've never used the EV Mux. I know a lot of people are using that. So oh yeah, pickle shine is some good stuff, but I ain't full with no more damn cucumbers. I can tell you that shit. Cucumber mint might be pretty good. I'm not gonna knock it, but I ain't gonna be using none of those cucumbers like I was talking about, man. There ain't no doubt that had pesticides in it, man. Come on, Mr. Shroden. Good to see you, brother. Pumpkins. No, Phil's the pumpkin man. He's got some good videos. Go check out philbillymoonshine.com on YouTube. And he's done some recently. So he every year they got a lot of pumpkin patches up there around him. And he pays too much for them. So he's helping these pumpkin farmers out because basically they just put them in a mulch pile, and turn them under whatever and use them as fertilizer because they just can't sell them all, right? So Phil's going in there and paying them too much. He's got giving them a couple dollars each. Man, they'll give you 50 cents a pop, man. They'll sell them some bitch because they can't do anything else with them. But anyway, he's buying them all and he's bringing them in by the truckloads, and they sit and clean up on those things all day long and make some pumpkin shine. I don't think I've tried it yet that I can recall, but yeah, he's got some videos on it. It's so pumpkin is something that does have some starch. So you might, they're mostly water though. But yeah, you can use your amylase on it and break them down, gelatinize them. It's going to gelatinize quicker than corn, probably close to like a regular potato would, which is much quicker than corn. So you don't need the 90-minute gelatinization period that corn would take at that high temperature. Probably 30 minutes, 40 minutes, just like potatoes, much quicker. And I would say it's a lot like a sweet potato. So it's going to be pretty quick. Uh, yeah, you use your alpha and glucoamylase on it just like you would anything else. And but I can't remember if I've had any of that to drink yet or not. I've tasted so many. I'm probably sure I have, but I was probably so drunk I don't remember. I'm sure he probably brought it down to Maggie last year before, or he's shoved that jar in my face. Maybe he did while I was up there on 4th of July. I can't remember. It's hard for me to remember, man. Especially when I get drunk. That's awesome. Yeah, I don't use any pesticides on my shit either, man. I don't use those powders and all that stuff. My grandpa did, he did a little bit of the powder stuff for some of his vegetables and stuff, and the bugs got bad. But me, I don't spray. I don't do nothing. It's 100% organic. I don't like none of that shit. Yeah, yeah. When you get those big buckets, man, they're heavy, and the shipping's killer. And well, the Gavi ain't cheap to begin with, but the shipping, yeah. But they have some Webstaurants. If you've got a Webstaurant or a restaurant depot, one will allow you to buy locally if you have one in your town. Will allow you to just come in and buy it without having the shipping, and the other one won't. I'm thinking Webstaurant does it and Restaurant Depot does, or maybe it's the other way around, but I think in Webstaurant does it and Restaurant Depot does. We've got one in Louisville, so I might have to go over and check them out and see what they got. I'm pretty sure they got some in Ohio too. I know Phil and West got a pretty good line on that was the molasses, but I'm not sure about the agave. I know my buddy Prohibition gets pretty good deals, but he's in Texas. Of course, you can get pretty good deals there. But um, yeah, yeah, I definitely need to find a good cheap source because it's prohibitively expensive for me. Do you like to use all malted grains with your cracked corn for bourbon or whiskey mash? Um, I do. I like I've used a lot of wheat. I like wheat too, so I've got malted barley and I'll malt my own wheat. Usually the barley I get malted because I've not found a source for barley. If I find barley, that's not malted, I'll be happy to malt it if I can get a good cheap price on it, like I'm getting my wheat and rye and everything else. But just not found it cheap. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, we get it cheap here," and I'm like, "Where you at?" And it's like, "I'm Idaho." It's like, well, okay, well, damn, But Clint's got a line on some people now. He's working now, I guess. But he's got a line on some people that ship pretty cheaply. It's kind of a co-op deal. I have to talk to him about that. But I like using the malted grains. It does give a different flavor than just like a barley versus a malted barley. Definitely going to give you a different flavor. Even malted corn does. Is it worth it? With me, the malting process on the corn and trying to use the malt and cook it and trying to convert it, at those temperatures, no. I mean, if you want to do like half your corn malt and just for your flavor and add it later and not get it gelatinized or get starches out of it to convert, but try to let it convert itself at lower temperatures like you would a malted barley or something like that. Okay, but for corn, just I don't malt any corn anymore. It's just too painstaking. It takes too long to cook it. It's just not worth it. I like using the enzymes, but I like the malted wheat. I like the flavor the malted wheat gives better than just the plain wheat. Um, and the same probably with barley for sure. But I just buy my my barley already malted, and my wheat just is a wheat berries, and I malt those myself. But I do like the flavor of the malt, for sure. And the wheat, when you malt it, it's got a higher diastatic than barley, so it does a lot of converting. But I'll still use a little of high temp or the powder. I'm trying to get rid of all this powder that I've got on hand, and I throw it in anyway just to make me feel better. I hate throwing anything away like that, so I'll throw it. I used to use the powder a lot before this high temp alpha came out, and it's probably getting a little bit old anyway, so I probably should just pitch the half bag that I have now. But yeah, I like using the malted barley for sure, and using malted grains, and like the flavor of the malt. Some people don't, so it's just an opinion thing. Some people prefer using, unmalted grains and don't like that malt flavor and just like that heavy corn flavor. Others like the malt flavor. Some people use the malt extracts and other things. It's just basically boils down to try both ways and see which you prefer and which tastes best to you. Probably same one Phil does. Get up with me later and let me know. I'll probably talk to Phil. Phil knows too. It's probably the same people y'all deal with. But yeah, I may have to get some next time I'm up here for sure. Sweet onion shine. That's a new one. Pumpkin rum. Sounds good. Pumpkin and brown sugar, molasses, and that sounds good. Oh, that's a bad story, bro. So my buddy that I was going to Colt Ford with goes to the hospital with his mom. The roofers came to roof his house, and the roofer falls through the roof, knocks down the drywall right onto my buddy's head, body, and everything, knocks him about halfway out. He's a big guy. So he's going to the hospital, and his mom's sick, and he's sick, and he goes for concussion protocols and all this because he's going to sue because he's been trying to get his landlord to replace his roof forever because it's been leaking, putting spots in the ceiling, and part of the drywall was coming in anyway. So, but I seen the roofer that fell through, man, and they definitely didn't blow up on the roof. So he had to back out, and I'd already canceled it. So I worked outside. That's what I did that night. Worked outside. That sucks. But yeah, so we didn't get to go. Miss Colt Ford. But he's all right. But him and his mom both getting sick, puking. I don't know. I think he got something from when he went to get the concussion protocol at the emergency treatment center. And he was all right. I've got I'm going to be able to go. I'm going to be able to go. And then late the next afternoon, he's like, man, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. And I'm like, oh, wait, you'll see. You'll be all right. Him and his mom getting sick. So he went into the hospital, went back and getting checked up. And his mom's elderly. So, But yeah, I didn't get to see Colt Ford. Not happy about that. And not just because I canceled the podcast, it's okay to have a little break from that, but I was looking forward to seeing Colt Ford. Yeah. But he was at a distillery. I was looking forward to doing a little distillery tour and talking to the mom-daughter team that runs it at Jephthah Creed. I don't know if you've all get those in. I don't know how far their distribution runs, but, here in Kentucky, I'm sure there's I'm sure it's around all the surrounding states, probably at most your Total Wines and places like that. But Jephthah Creed, they use a Bloody Butcher. They grow Bloody Butcher there on site, and it's a flavorful, kind of a heirloom corn whiskey, pretty unique, But yeah, I was definitely depressed. I didn't get to go see Jephthah Creed Distillery, and I didn't get to see Colt Ford. But I'd already canceled the show, and I was like, I'm not going to cancel. And then come in and say, well, whoever wants to, I've got a lot of work to do. I've got to redo my roof. I was talking to the same roofer that did my buddy's house. I don't know if I want that big fat guy up there. That's some bitch bigger than I am, man. He's 300 pounds. You don't want to be a roofer, 300-pound roofer up there, man. This boy's big. Man, you too big to be roofing, man. Maybe after falling through his roof, he'll take a break, maybe. But yeah, load shingles on the lift or something. But yeah, he's too big to be up there, man. That's stupid. He was a big boy. He was bigger than I am. I'm 250, 260, and he was bigger than me. So I don't know. He's a pretty big boy. Yeah, there's a lot of water in them for sure, Chris. Yeah, it does take a lot. There's a lot of water in them. I don't think so either. Really, back in the old days, it was a long, arduous cook. Trying to keep the malt from denaturing, and cooking it at 150 degrees forever and ever. It's just not worth it. And then some people would just try to do gelatinize half the corn, that's not malted. And then once it got down to 150, add the malted corn in, but you're not getting the gelatinization of that. So you're getting some of the alpha out of it, but you're really not utilizing the starches from it very much. You're not breaking them up, and it's just, nah. It's best just do a corn liquor with your high temp alpha and glucose, or use the malted grains at the appropriate temperatures. 135, 45, depending on what you're using. I'll put this chart up there for anybody that wants to do that. I put it up here every time, and I can't show it enough. So if you don't have it, you can capture it to your phones. A lot of these charts you can get in the group. So if you're in the DIY Shine and Steel building, you're gonna get all these in the file section, or if you're in the militia, you're gonna get them in the file section. But if not, you can kind of take a screenshot or ask me to send you a copy, and I can. But this tells you the range that you should add all these grains, right? And this saccharification range in the green, and that's about at 150, right? You'll see the 150s right in the middle of that green range. So 155, I think on here almost 156 and change is where your alpha denatures. That's why that green line stops there. So most of your natural alpha amylase, not the high temp stuff, but most of your powder and endogenic alpha amylase that's in the actual grain itself will definitely denature at that temperature. So about 150, 52, 3 is a good temperature to add those malts. Barley malt, you can see, booms right there at 155 or so, and at the bottom side 147. So as long as you can keep it in that range, it's going to be very active and be very effective. Once you get to the left of the barbell, it loses its efficacy. It's not active and functioning properly anymore. You may get a little bit of residual work out of it, but you need to try to keep it inside the two barbells, right? So the higher end is the high, you definitely don't want to exceed that. You'll denature. And on the other side, on the left, you don't want to go lower than that, or it's inactive, right? Some of them have huge swings, like your wheat's got a pretty good. Now that's just regular wheat. That's not a malted wheat. So anything malted, you'll definitely want to do at about 150, 53, you don't want to go too much over that. But if it's not, this shows you basically what temp you can add things. And two, with wheat, if it's not malted, adding it at too high temperature can also cause it to get really gummy. So if you're doing like an all grain mash with no corn at all, it's probably best to do a step mash going the other direction, right? With corn, we start high temperature and work our way down and add malts as our temperature comes down. But if you're not using corn, you want to go the opposite direction, like a beer maker does, right? You want to start lower temperature, come up, rest at 100, rest 120, rest at 150, and do these rests, protein rests, and others, saccharification rests, to get the maximum out of those grains, and step mash it forward instead of backwards like we do with corn. So it's going to be a little bit different if you do like an all grain. There's also some enzymes. We've talked about that in the past. There's specific enzymes that you can use to help break up the gluten. So it's a beta glucanase, and there's other types of. We've talked about the what's the trying to think of the different names. There's several different enzymes that you can buy commercially. We've talked about them 100 times. Shit. I don't use them a lot because I don't do all grains, so that's why I don't have them. I'm trying to think of a couple of names. Usually you can roll right off my tongue, but I don't have them right now, and I don't use them. But I am going to try to do an all barley and an all wheat just to see. I definitely want to do a single malt, but I've never done a single malt before. Most everything I've done is always based around corn. Um, can't believe it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of these. Uh, let me pull it up here. Wish Clint was here. He uses them a lot. He could tell you right off the bat. And of course, it's telling me every brand name except the one I'm trying to think of the brand name. Let me look on Amazon. No, I'll find it there. No. Anyway, any of this list in the past we've talked about, I can't believe I can't think of it. But it's basically a beta glucanase that you would get from a malted grain, but it comes in a liquid or powdered form. And you can add it just as you would, any other at about 100. Some you add it at 140. Some going to be into 120, but I can't think of the. It's on the tip of my tongue. There's two different ones. It'll come in a minute. Just getting old and forgetful, man. But it's on the tip of my tongue. Maybe let me share these links. While I'm sharing these links, I'll think about it and I'll come up with it. What's going on, Si? What's going on, Doug? Good to see you. What's going on, Mark? I ain't seen you a bit, brother. All right, let me get these other links shared, and then I'll sit here and stew and think about it, and it'll come to me while I'm sharing these, I'm sure. All right, where'd I stop? Just plain grain. Here we go. Yeah, I'm getting home forgetful, man. It's just things. It's like a few months ago, man. It took me forever to come up a funnel. I can't remember a funnel, man. A freaking funnel, right? I couldn't come up with a damn word. I'm getting old, man. I'm afraid I'm getting dementia or something like my old man did. That scares the shit out of me. My name's getting old and forgetful. I don't remember it because it's not something that I have in my box in there. So, if it's something I looked at all the time, I definitely would remember it a lot easier. But but I will remember it in a minute to put my mind to it. Let me get the rest of these done. There we go. So my eyesight's getting as bad as my hearing and memory. I can't hear shit, can't see shit, can't remember shit. Getting bad, boys. It is getting bad. A few more. I will remember this though. I will put my mind to it and get it. Did I share it to Morgan? If not, I'll share it again. I don't know if I did or not. Mark, if I share it to your group twice, I'm sorry. Visco Seb. Seb Emil and Visco Seb. This just comes to me. I couldn't remember that. Saved my life, man. Visco Seb and Seb Emil and Sebflow. Finally comes to me, man. That's just blank. Draw blank, man. It's just like a doe in headlights. I can't think of it. But Seb Emil, Sebflow, and Visco Seb. I think Visco Seb works for. Let me do a little research on this because I think the Visco Seb is does more. Visco Seb Ale is liquid enzyme breakdown the beta-glucans from barley malt. Yeah, so the Visco Seb is the one that you want just for the barley, and the Seb Flow. TL or Seb Flow. There's also a Seb Star. Yeah, Seb Star HTL. It's a beta glucanase that takes care of these same ones. Visco Seb L, and there's a Seb Flow. Seb Flow TL is a specialized. So it works on all of them. Work on the glucans. I think the Seb Flow does a lot more than just that particular glucan. So the Visco Seb, the Seb Flow TL, and the Seb Star HTL, all three of those from the same company, which is Enzyme Innovations. Most all your commercial distilleries use those, and craft distillers use those, which is how Clint's familiar with them, from using them in the commercial. But yeah, if you do a lot with single grains, like a lot of wheat, all wheat, or vodkas, or a barley single malt, if you do a lot of single malt, having this stuff is definitely going to be advantageous for you. I'm going to get some because I've not done one. I hate to say it, but I've never done one, and it's not because of expense. It's just I'm not real big on single malt, like scotches and stuff. I've never really been a big fan. To me, they're real hot and they just don't have that great of flavor. I much prefer a good bourbon. But now that I got those links here, nobody's been calling shots. Damn, if I need a drink. I ain't drinking no West 140, man. That shit's just melting the hair off my tongue. But this is from Staves. It's good stuff. I like what those Staves did to it. Pretty quickly, too. I actually overdid it. But it was quick. Tasty. I didn't even call shots, man. Poor man sit here and stay sober all damn night. I swear to God. I need a drink after all the shit I went through. But let me check. Yeah, let me check my storm, my weather radar. And if it's getting ready to blow through, I may have to take just a second off and check on my mater plants. I wished I'd have gotten out earlier today and got those metal fence posts driven in, because I'm going to run a wire between all those fence posts and tie strings to help keep them steady. And I was going to do it anyway, just to give. Oh shit. Okay. Man, I was freaking out. I was like, damn, we're in the red again. That was just red all around us, but some just passed us, so that's good. Lights didn't flicker. We did lose power earlier today. And I'm zooming out. And that line of storm that I was talking about earlier, it's not. It's going to go a little bit west of us now. It's shifted over. Thank God. I mean, I'm sorry for the people west of us, but I'm glad it's not me. But Western Kentucky's getting hammered right now, and so is Western Tennessee and Central. But yeah, that was. Look at this storm coming out, man. You can see it. Look at this storm. Let me hit the motion button. Look at this storm coming. I'm that black dot. Bam. That was earlier when the tomatoes got blown over. And here's the line of storms coming. It's not very good focus, is it? Here's the line of storms coming right at us, but looks like they're going to go a little bit what looks like east, but that's actually west because this damn phone's not reversed or is reversed. But that was coming right at us, so thank God that's going to miss us. My tomatoes. Lost a bell pepper. Tomato plant fell right on top of bell pepper. Man, it's full as it could stick of bell peppers, too. I hate that. The only one I had. So much for the bell peppers, but they're cheap anyway. Didn't get no jalapenos. Didn't get no poblanos. We had a cold snap that was late here, real cold freezing snap, and it killed my grower. He didn't have a greenhouse, and it wiped him out. He said none of his peppers did good, and that's why I just got the lunch box and that one green pepper that he has, one of the last ones he had. That didn't do well, and it was late getting in the ground. Yeah, it was bad, and I'm sure some people there might be some tornadoes. I'll hear about it tomorrow, but we got some pretty decent thumbnail sized hail here. While I was watching at about 6:30, 7 o'clock, it was all hail going out there, man. I mean, it knocked them tomato plants over like they wasn't done. It just laid them over, man. So after that, I went out and watered them, and the ones that didn't get knocked over, I watered them, and hopefully that water will give it some weight. But they were dry in the bottom, and they were getting a little top heavy, and if I'd have gotten them watered, they might not have gotten all blown over, but I'm going to definitely fix it where they don't get blown over no more. That ain't happening again. Because I like having my tomatoes. We make salsas and marinaras and all that, and likes doing that. And we just now got done with a jar of salsa from last year, so yeah, it's good. It'll keep. Put that vinegar in there and high acid. That shit keeps a long time, but it's good stuff. Yeah, sometimes, man, it worries me though, man, because just little words, not remembering that doesn't bother me much, but not remembering when a freaking funnel, man. I was like, the little cone shape, I couldn't. Yeah, it was bad. Funnel, because that's I've always had really good abilities with my recall and memory, and been smart and remembered everything I ever learned, and now I'm having to re-educate myself, man. That's concerning. Yeah, sweet potatoes good. I usually do sweet potatoes with my potatoes. I like regular potato and sweet potato combo. There's a lot of good enzymes in your sweet potatoes too, especially in the skins. They got a lot of good amylase, natural amylase in them. But yeah, definitely going to have to get me some of that Seb Flow, Seb Star, Seb Emil, Seb Visco Seb, one of those. I'll read into it and talk to Clint and try to get one. I want one that's going to be pretty much kind of all around. There's one of them. It might be a little bit more expensive though, but it did more things, right? So I may get that just to give me a little more flexibility with it. But I definitely want to do an all malt. But I've been trying to find a farmer local that does barley, and I guess that's another reason why I don't do an all malt. Because I want to do an all barley malt, and we don't have any farmers in here that grow barley that will sell it like that. Most of the ones that grow barley here will basically have it under contract with the distilleries. They don't sell it to anybody else. Every bit they grow goes into bags and goes to the distillery, and I doubt you'll ever see it unless the moisture content's too high and the distillery refuses it. Then you might sit on, available, but pretty good stuff. But yeah, we got some flooding down in Tennessee, and there's flash flood alerts here in Kentucky too. So prayers for all those people. Let's see here. Just a second. I'm trying to. Why in the world can't I do that on this page? I'm trying to sort things. Yeah, here it is. Crooksville, New Lex. Amy Creel was posting about it down in Tennessee. Flooding bad. Looks bad. And that's before this line of storms came in. This was yesterday or 11 hours ago. So it's definitely going to get worse. Also, while we're talking about it, and I'm on the page, one of our moderators, old Chad, Moonshiner Chad, had a stroke recently. We'll keep him in our prayers. Kind of caught us all by surprise. It wasn't a major bad one, but there's no such thing as a good stroke, right? So let's keep him in our prayers. And let's see, Jason Acosta's mom passed away, so we want to keep his family in our prayers. And I'm hoping I was trying to sort these in chronological order because Roy, I think maybe his aunt or mom passed away, and want to give prayers out to him as well. Oh yeah, this and Jim Bruins lost his daughter in a car accident, so definitely want to keep him in our prayers. Jim's a good old guy, man. I ain't seen him in a while, but one of my buddies, Jim Bruins, used to see him on the shit show a lot. He's an old ex-Marine, great guy. Lost his daughter in a car accident. There's somebody else too. Kind of scrolling down the page, I can't remember. Also, I did want to note, let me see here. Where is that? There is a raffle for a steel that Sandman is putting together. I'm looking for the post to that. So you definitely want to get on that. I think I'm going to have to find it because I don't want to say it's a 20 and it not be a 20. Let me scroll down here and find it. I can't see any comments right now if anybody's commenting. So if you are, I apologize, but got a little bit slow. So I think the winner is going to be picked at Fire in a Bottle. But I do want to find the details on that. And also, I'm since if we don't get a lot of questions, sometimes I'm going to go to groups and just pull up some questions and ask. Oh yeah, we were going to talk about yeast, so let me do that as well. Let me do that as well. So let's Let me find the post, and it really bothers me that I can't do things in chronological. I don't know why I can't see them. But anyway, get with look on the militia page. We'll have to post it again, and maybe we can put it in the featured, so it'll be at the top and stick at the top, and maybe I'll figure out how to. Usually, there's a thing here that you can click, and it shows view everything in a chronological order, or there's several different criteria there. But anyway, all right. Anyway, let's talk about yeast beds. All right, and we talk about often recovering the yeast out of your yeast bed and kind of sieving and getting rid of all the other stuff. I read a pretty good article on one of the better ways to do that, and enjoyed it. And it was a very good. Here, what you want to do, like you get your yeast bed right. Once you siphon off all your clears and you got that yeast bed, even if you press all your juice out of it, let that settle, and then siphon off that. You don't want to get it when it's real milky, right? So all that's left when you siphon off that second, save that, right? And put it all in the same vat together. Get you some distilled water, stir it up really, really, really well. Wait about 15 to 20 minutes, and then siphon off all that milky water, right? So you'll save that. That's a lot of live yeast there. Also, you'll look at your yeast bed as it settles down. And as it settles, you'll see a very white layer on top, and then you'll have some heavier stuff on bottom. If you can siphon off all that white stuff on the top, that will be most of your yeast, and a lot of the flocculants below that will be a little bit darker. It'll be you'll see a difference in your color if you have a clear, if it's in a glass, right? If you're using one of these blue, 5-gallon water bottles, it's going to be a little harder to discern, but it's going to be on top. So shake it up, and you can shake it a second time and let that settle. Once you get all your milky water out, you can put a little bit more water in there, shake it up, and let it settle. But you'll notice that it'll be real white on the top and then darker below that. If you can siphon off all that white at the top, that's going to be more of your live yeast. And then you can kind of rinse through and screen anything else that's in the bottom, and screen out any of the large particles, organic particles. And then anything in the bottom of that is going to be a lot of dead yeast that you can reuse. But you want to try to take a lot of your organic matter out. But the real white and the real milky water that's off that will have, and you can let that settle again, right? Once you get that milky water off, you're going to let that settle, and it's going to have a lot of high concentration of yeast in it, right? So you're going to siphon all that water off and then pour that in a jar, and then you're going to have good yeast there. But you also want to siphon off that settles again in that big vat, right? That's got most of your yeast bed in there. So hopefully I'm describing it right. So let's just say we got a 5-gallon water bottle, right? And it's got a yeast bed in it that's 2 inches thick. Okay. So we're going to pour in a couple of gallons of water, and it's going to be above the yeast bed, the clear water. So you're going to shake this all up, right? You're going to wait 5 or 10 minutes, and then you're going to siphon off everything that does, 15 minutes, 15 to 20. And everything that settles down, you're not going to take yet. You're just going to take all the clear water off the top that's got milky, right? It's milky, not clears, but we call that clears, but it's milky, right? So we're siphoning all that off, and we can still see a distinct yeast bed in the bottom. Okay, so once we get all that milky water siphoned off, we're going to put that to the side. We're going to add another gallon or two of water to it, a few, and shake that up again. And we're going to let it settle out, and we're going to let it, spend a little bit more time settling out. And then you'll notice at the very top, you'll have a white layer. It's going to be hard to tell in one of them blue jugs, but you'll have a white layer at the very top. Now you take that siphon hose in there, and you just, go all over. You can see in the top, you just go back and forth and get all that white layer as you can. If you get a little from below it, it's not the end of the world. It's actually going to be a nutrient to help keep this yeast alive anyway. But try to get all that white right off the top and skim that off. And you can put it in that other jug full, shake it up and let that settle down. And then you can siphon off all the clears, and then what's left is going to be pretty much live yeast, and that's what you want to keep to propagate your yeast. Now you're going to have to feed that. You can feed a little bit of sugar from time to time, but if you do, make sure that you don't cover it up. It builds a lot of pressure. If you keep it in the fridge, you're going to have to pull it out and burp it. A lot of people just keep the ring really loose on there and let it, clabber out as it wants to. Don't tighten it down. It'll burp out as it needs to. And make sure you get it cooled down in your fridge, and it'll make it pretty much inactive. It'll slow it down, and it won't eat much. It won't do anything. It'll be dormant. But that's the way to, propagate your yeast. 2-row or 6-row, either one. I prefer 2 now that I use a lot of liquid enzymes. Before we'd always use the 6 because it had a higher diastatic, and it takes sometimes 20%, around 20% of the grain bill to get enough diastatic without the liquid enzymes, right? So it was a pretty high percentage. So now that we use liquid, we don't need as much, and we can kind of focus on flavor. Whereas before the focus was on diastatic power. So now we can focus on flavor more. And 99.9% of your beer makers are all going to say 2-row is much more flavorful than a 6. And, you can't say that's fact, because there's always that 1 in 100 or that 5 in 100 or whatever that are going to prefer the other, the flavor of the other. So, you can't say it's factual, but most prefer the 2-row. For the flavor. And then there's a lot of specialty 2-rows. You get a lot of European, most of your beers and European and all your beer makers and stuff focus on 2-row, right? And there's a lot bit more selective breeding, and a lot more going into the technology and the agricultural technology of the 2-row and making specific 2-rows versus the 6-rows. Always just been a distiller's malt, and that was pretty much it because of its diastatic. So not as much R&D and selective breeding has gone into that as there has 2-row. 2-row is going to give you a lot more flavor. There's a lot more varieties, and it's most prefer the flavor. Hello, Miss Tammy. How are you? What's my favorite post flavor to make? I'd say oak. I like oak on corn liquor. Or multigrain liquor, probably my favorite. But if I were talking flavor, I don't know. There's a lot of different stuff that I've tasted over the years. I'm not big on a lot of sweet stuff. I know Damon made this tart, watermelon tart stuff that was pretty good. Had it was sweet and tart at the same time, and it was pretty good. Of course, apple pies, post flavored apple pies with apples and the spice just added in. A lot of that stuff I definitely prefer a post flavoring to. It's a challenge to do it without, and I appreciate the challenge and everything. But if you're just drinking purely for flavor, yeah, you'd be crazy not to just go ahead and can I share that? I'm not sure if I shared that to Copper Steel. Yeah. So it's being a lot more acceptable now to post flavor stuff. I will say I don't like most of it because most people over sweeten it, and it's like taking sugar and Kool-Aid mix and pouring 1 shot of vodka in it. It's just so concentrated and so sugary. It's just way too much. And I don't like a lot of the creams either, because I'm not really big on cream. What's going on, Brian? Good to see you, brother. So I'm not real big on cream, but yeah, I'm not real big on cream here, but I did do some Bailey's cream back in the day. We do the B52s with Bailey's, Kahlua, and vodka, and those were pretty good. But after if you get sick drinking some cream type liquor, man, it's probably one of the last times you want to do it. It's just It's just not good. But I do like the flavor of it. It's just that it's not something I can just sit down and drink, and get drunk on. But just for flavor, just for a drink, yeah, they're awesome. I like that Bailey's cream and a few different things, but that Kahlua and cream is a good combo. Not bad. It ain't Weller, but not bad at all. But post flavor, I don't know what Damon called it. It was a sour patch. He called it sour patch shine, but it was just real tart, sweet and tart at the same time. It tasted pretty good. I like stuff. It's candy though. It's like eating candy. Um, but I've tasted a lot of them at the festivals and stuff, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I just not real big on heavy sugared. I think everybody goes way overboard, and that's just my personal opinion. I know a lot of people like it that way, and they love that sweet, ultra sweet stuff, and that's great. It's just not something you want to get drunk on, or you're going to have a mean hangover. But I just don't like all that really ultra sweet stuff, and that seems to be what wins competitions and stuff is for the post flavors. Some of that sweet stuff. I did try some. It's this juice that comes in a looks like an old milk carton, the old quart, big tall milk cartons. This comes in a carton like the orange juice used to. It comes in a carton and it has like guava, pineapple, and something else, maybe pear or something else unique. And I drank some of that with combined with like a vodka, and that shit was awesome. I really liked that, and it wasn't over sweet. And they'd proofed it, proofed the vodka down with it. It was definitely had a bite. You knew what you were drinking some alcohol. That's a must. First things first. That's a must. If you're going to hand me a post flavored drink, I want to make sure I want to taste the alcohol in it. So if it's just all sugar bomb with Kool-Aid mix and all these other sweet mixes and all these other syrups and you know be able to taste some alcohol in it, or else I'm not gonna like it. It's just a waste. It's just gonna be a bad hangover, and I'm gonna have to drink a lot of it, and I don't like. And I'm probably gonna need insulin after that. But yeah, it was like a mango guava pear pineapple combo. I don't know what it was, but I got to find out. And it was a really good juice. It was a great juice just to drink alone. But that with vodka was very refreshing and really good. I like things like that. Definitely prefer that to some of these heavily sugared, you know. Yeah. just I just don't like all that sugar and stuff. But everybody loves it, man. Everybody's, oh God, that's so good. And I try it and I'm like, holy fuck, man. Give me a shot of fucking insulin, man. That's crazy. It's just too much. It's just you can just feel the sugar in your teeth, man. It's not even dissolved. Yeah. Yeah. It's just like drinking syrup. Too much. Too much. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of those, but like an apple pie with a good spice and a apple brandy with just a little bit of spice to it, but I can tell I'm drinking a brandy, a 80 proof brandy. Yeah, I like something like that much better than a lot of the sugar stuff. So yeah, any good brandy, um, I definitely prefer, whether it's been post or not. Just something, add the fruit to it, add an apple to it, or proof it with concentrated apples. Anything like that. Fine, great, wonderful. But yeah, all the syrups and stuff. Even though I've got some syrups and some things like that I use uh, and concentrates, I definitely have to have some alcohol. It's got to be proofy. I don't want this 40 proof. Forget about it. Not for me. It's definitely not for me. Going to have to be start with 100 and proof it down to 70 or 80, and add some flavor to it, but keep it where I can taste some alcohol, and I'm definitely going to prefer that over a 40 proof sugar down syrup drink. Just horrible. Remember the old fountain drinks? When they mix the Coke syrup with the soda water and make the fountain drink. To me, a lot of those taste like, the soda water didn't come through and I'm just drinking the fountain syrup. It's just horrible. Interesting. Kirschwasser using cherries from a semi-local farm. Now, I've made some really good cherry wine. Now, that's another thing. Most of my brandies never hit the distiller. It just doesn't make it to the pot because I tasted in the must stage, and like, man, there's no way I'm distilling that and losing all that flavor. Even if I retain just a touch of flavor like a decent brandy. I made a cherry wine a few years ago that I got the 99 cent a pound cherries and made it work. But I just can't do the $3.29 cherries, and make it work. So yeah, if a farmer, if you can get it cheap or free or overripe, and you need to clean a little bit of fuzz off of it here and there, that's perfect for a brandy that you're going to distill. You can clean it up and wipe it and just cut off all the bad spots and ferment it and heat it up, or use some potassium metabisulfate, and you'll kill all the bacteria off that's causing that fuzz. Yeah, it is, man. It is. And mine never, a lot of mine are still sitting in the bottles in there, man. I've got blackberry, I've got some strawberry champagne that's going to be a strawberry brandy, never made it. The cherry brandy never made it. Got a couple of blackberry wines that's just never made it. A lot of plum wines. I was going to make some Slivovich, and it's like, nope, not. So, if it's not a real good wine, yeah, it'll go into the distiller. But if it's a good wine, yeah, it gets bottled. Yeah, I'll take it a little longer secondary fermentation and airlock it for 6 to 8 months, and then bottle that shit up. Got quite a few cases of wine, and then after it sits in there for a year or two, if I don't drink it, then I'll, if it starts to get a little funky, I'll pour it in the pot and make something neutral out of it, or make a Slivovich or whatever out of it. I've got some plum wine in there that probably going to go into my next mixed distillation when I just throw in a lot of bottles of wine and stuff. That's because a lot of your fruit, it's not all your fruit wines aren't like grapes. Grapes tend to get better over the years as long as you lay them sideways and keep that cork hydrated and sealed off well. They just get better with time. They estrify and work and age well and mature. But a lot of fruit wines won't. A lot of like plum wines, and Slivovich, and strawberries, and cherries. Cherries kind of mixed, but a lot of your fruit wines, like if you have a peach wine, apple wine, a lot of those stuff, those don't, after 2 or 3 years, forget it. They just don't taste as good anymore. They're just stale. And then you can always run those through the column and clean them up or get the alcohol off of it. Basically all you're doing. But yeah, every once in a while I'll run a case or two of bottles if it's just not good anymore. But most of all my grape wines, they don't do that. And that cherry wine, there's only a few bottles of it left, so I won't do that to that. But it was very popular. The cherry wine, probably one of my best. It's just so expensive to buy the damn cherries, man. It's just crazy. I'm cheap, but it's like, it's really tough for me to spend, a couple $100 for a case of wine, Just tough. But if I can find it on sale, definitely. And grapes, I don't know. I guess 99 cents a pound is my go-to. So if it gets less than $1 a pound, you know, and it's pretty decent fruit. Yeah, I'll go for it. But I wish I lived or knew some orchard owners. Definitely need to get out there because I can pick me some blackberries for free. So I get free blackberries. That's why I got a lot of blackberry wine. I've actually got some in there. I need to run, but um, a lot of blackberry wine, but and some blueberries. But cherries, man, I love cherry wine. It's good stuff. So yeah, that should turn out real well. But yeah, it's and it's not going to keep forever either. You know, like the grapes. But I think cherries do a little bit better uh, over time than a lot of the other fruits. But I will say you got to take care to make sure that it doesn't taste medicine-y because a lot of times the cherry wine can kind of taste like a cough syrup if you try to maintain too much sweetness and don't have that tart, um, dry. I mean, some people like the sweet wines. I kind of prefer the tart, but I had the white wine that I made was really really stout, very I think it was like 16% alcohol, and we called it Sweet Heat, and it still retained some sweetness. Had a high proof, and everybody loved it. It was sweet, and it was had an astringency to it though, so you could taste the alcohol. Got better over time, but yeah, it was awesome. But yeah, they've got a place and right there's a place in Indiana, northern Indiana, that I follow on Facebook, and I've got some friends that's gone up there, and they've just like got such great deals. I'd love to set up a little craft distillery in their town and just buy all my products from them, take it straight to the craft distillery, make a brandy or wine out of it, and then put it on the market. Because you'd be able to make a go of it because you're getting stuff pallets and pallets, $1 a pallet, right? $5 for a pallet full wrapped up, $1 a case, huge amounts, right? And it you could definitely make a go of it, if you're getting it that cheap or if you're growing it yourself. I don't think you could grow it that cheap, really. I think they sell it cheaper than it can be grown, but it's either sell it at that stage or just put it in a mulch pile and turn it under, or feed it to the hogs. What are you going to do? Quarter of the cost. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And this place even less, man. I'm not going to give up my secret. I'm not going to tell everybody. I'm going to be mean. But let me pull them up. Man, I saw some stuff they had the other day. I just want to give you an example. I think it's maybe. Damn. Well, I can't remember the name of it now. Well, shit. It'll take a while. I'll have to find it, but I will share it. No, John Bentz went up there and got some blueberries. It's alder something. I can't remember. Aldershock, or something like that. But anyway, I mean, they sell pallets for like $1, $5 a pallet. Talking 15 cases for $5 or something. It's crazy, crazy cheap, and they sell huge volumes, right? And it's an honor system. They just have it sitting there. You pull up and see what you want, put your money in the box, and they got cameras. You just show them how much money, you show them what you're getting, put your money in, and it's on the honor system, and go. I've got to find that, man. That's killing me now. Let's see here. I'll find that damn page. Yeah, maybe I'll find it this way. Helps if I spell it right. Well, I don't follow that many places, so I'm sure let's scroll down and find it here real quick. Just give me a minute. I want to share it. That way if somebody lives close to it, they can take advantage of it. It's just too far. It is Andershock, not Aldershock. It's Andershock Produce. So you can look them up on Facebook. Andershock Produce. So right now, 50 pounds of potatoes for $2. That's a pallet, all wrapped up on a pallet, wrapped in plastic. 50 pounds, $2. Man, you make a lot of vodka. That's beautiful. Let's see what these watermelons are. Got some watermelons, seedless. Doesn't say the price though. Tomatoes. That's $5 for $1, so that's just basically selling them outright. Let's see. $2 flats, 32 pounds. $2 flats, 4 flats for $5. 32 pounds for $5. Strawberries. 32 16-ounce packages, $5. That's what I'm talking about. So if you live anywhere in northern Indiana, that's where you want to go. Andershock. I kept thinking Alder. It's Andershock. SCHOCK. But yeah. Idaho potatoes, 10 pounds for $1. They got lettuce. A lot of their stuff is good too. So it's not like it's got rot all over it. This is a lot of good produce. Darian radishes. Well, those 3 for $1. So they're selling some basically as vegetables, like a roadside market. But a lot of it too is 3 papayas for $1. You know, that kind of stuff. But yeah, some of it's pallets for $5. Like I say, it's crazy cheap. Potato deal, 50 pounds for $2. That's cheap. Make you a lot of vodka. Here is $1 each pineapples. And maybe give you a little break on a case. Cantaloupes, 3 for $1. You know, just crazy low prices. But yeah, it's a good. If I live closer, I'd definitely go there all the time. Good to see. Hey, thanks for tuning in, Mitch. Yeah, it's getting about time. It's a little after 10. We're going to have to. Dad made some muscadine grape 2019. Yeah, absolutely. As long as it was laying on its side, I mean, it's still going to be safe. Even if it wasn't, it's just going to be vinegar if it's getting oxygen in there now. But as long as it's on its side and that cork is getting moisture, it'll stay moist and it'll prevent oxygen from entering. It won't get porous, right? It won't dry out. And that's the proper way to store your wine is on its side. Tough to do by the case, you know, but that's why they have all these wineries with all these little X, you know, places to fit your wine in racks and shelves designed specifically for the bottles, because that's the way you want to store it. But absolutely. I mean, the worst thing can happen is be a vinegar and just use it for cooking, right? Yep. See you Saturday, brother. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap it up. Miss Clint tonight didn't get to see her boy. That's not good. He's been working. He's enjoying what he's doing though. He's got him a little side hustle going on, and it takes up a little bit of his time, but he's making decent money at it. So it's and it's definitely helping out. He's had some car repairs. Now he's gonna I think he's just gonna try to fix it up and sell it and get a new car. So we've been kind of looking at deals, and I think Camry is about as good as you're gonna get for if you're gonna make money driving and delivering and things like that. Kind of hard to go wrong, but you gotta get that good mileage. Yeah, Si, we'll be on Saturday. We Saturdays and Tuesdays, 8 Eastern time. So tune back in Saturday unless there's a festival going on. I won't be here. Let's see. Let me pull up Militia page again. I think it's August 28th, but I want to give you all the right date. It's the end of the month. Actually, it's getting close. Damn, I can't believe it's that close. Jeez, I gotta get my apple pie done too. Already run it once, so I just gotta get that second round with a little spice in it. But let me find the August. Well, we got a banner. It says August 2026, but it doesn't give me a specific date. And I'm pretty sure it's 28th and 29th. So that's just a few weeks away. So I won't be on the 29th. Saturday the 29th. I'll be at the Farm to Bottle doing some education there. We're going to do some, sit downs and have a little Q&A where people can just come up and talk and chat and ask their questions there. So for the local people there and for farmers and stuff that are interested in maybe making their own beer and wine and maybe distilling, we'll talk about everything. But anyway, we'll see y'all Saturday night. Let's see, what will that be? That'll be the 15th, Saturday the 15th. So stay dry. Hopefully pray for people that are getting flooded. And keep your prayers up for Chad. Hopefully he's recovering well. But we'll see y'all Saturday. Till then, peace out. Shine on. Love y'all. We're gone.